So tell us a little bit about yourself as a realtor, and how long have you been doing this, and who are your typical clients?
Silvia Deutsch with REMAX Realty Group. I've been licensed since 1987, so that's many years. Back then, I moved here from Germany and I got my real estate license. So my typical clients have changed over the years, and
Mm.
that's been typical for realtors, right? When you start out, you have
Yep.
many young buyers. And now that I'm a little advanced in age, I have a lot of people that bought. Yesterday, I saw someone who bought from me 27 years ago.
Yep.
Last, someone who bought 23 years ago. So it is a mix. It's always been sort of maybe, 60% sellers and 40% buyers, but it changes a little bit.
Hmm. Thank you for that. And what are some of the factors, would you say, Sylvia? Or actually, let me ask you this: how would you describe Rochester's current housing market? Is it a buyer's or seller's market? And for how long has this current trend been going on, would you say?
Well, we now have a seller's market. There's no question about it. That has been for the last 5 or 6 years.
Hmm.
We always, so when I say always, for the first 30 years of my 36, Rochester area, Monroe County, we saw 2 to 3% appreciation every single year. I can show you the stats. It didn't matter what you did to the house. It didn't
Yep.
matter. We had a very steady market. So as you can imagine, in all the years I've been working, I've worked all kinds of different markets. We certainly had buyer's market where we maybe needed 5 listings and one would sell and 4 would not sell.
Yep.
Right now it's really the opposite. And that started, about, I'd say 5 or 6 years. In the last 5 years, Monroe County properties have appreciated by 50%. And it's just, you hear, yeah, 50
4 years,
in the last 5 years.
5 years,
50.
50%.
Right. You
Wow.
hear that, and we've been hearing that from other places in the country. Our market was always so modest.
Right.
When you think of it, the real estate market typically used to be driven by jobs, right?
Right.
And we went into the first poor real estate market when Kodak, the heyday of Kodak was over. That's even before I got in the market. Many layoffs, many people leaving the area to find new jobs. And I'd say in the last 30 years, our job market's been not not wild. There weren't many people moving here for jobs, but the remote workers have changed all that
Got it.
because now you can basically buy a very affordable home in Rochester. It's still affordable compared
Hmm.
to California or Seattle, but you can get a paycheck in Seattle because you're working remotely for Microsoft. So that has changed. It's really changed that people can now live. If you work remote, you can live wherever you want. So we are seeing a lot of influx of people.
Hmm.
We are seeing young people coming home again, living in the area because they have children and they want
I've
to,
noticed it. Yep.
right? I myself, Jen came back.
Right.
It is a really good place to
Raise a
live.
family.
And
Yep.
there's always momentum, right? So
Right.
I sometimes laugh because everybody's now saying how Rochester is the number one. And I'm like, yeah, it always was, but
Right.
nobody
Right.
knew about it, right? There are people that are moving here because of the climate. We have the Great Lakes, we have the water, so now we have this. And then when people move here, then their friends come.
Uh,
So everybody always says, "Well, Sylvia, everybody's leaving Rochester." Yes, some people are leaving. It's a very mobile society that we live in, and I'm sure that's not just for Rochester. I'm sure you're seeing that in other areas. People just get to pick up and go, and the typical boomers aren't just selling and moving into a ranch. They might
right.
go hit the road, or
Yep.
people are looking for different lifestyles. So we are definitely in a seller's market, and have been for about 4 or 5 years.
Thank you. So, what are some of the factors driving housing prices today?
Like always, like anything in the economy, supply and demand.
Hmm.
Have way more buyers than we have sellers. So for instance, last year or in prime times, you put a property on the market, you'd get 30, 40, 50 showing appointments, you'd get 15, 20 purchase offers. So when that's all said and done, you have 19 buyers that are waiting for the next home to show up. How
Okay.
many
Hmm.
listings? We had a ranch sale in Penfield earlier that had 36 offers. And I can tell you in an entire year, there wouldn't be 35 ranch homes like that listed. So at the moment, we're seeing that the number of appointments are down. We might get 12 or 13, and the number
Hmm.
of us are down. We might see 3 or 4 or 5, and these are all averages. So that's still a more demand than supply, but it appears that we're catching up a little bit, right?
Do you think, yeah, some of like the government agencies and housing, sort of development folks are starting to address it, like get building again?
Well, I mean, there is always building, but you got to realize there is a big price difference, especially with construction prices having
Yeah,
gone so much after Corona. So,
not
and with
necessarily
prices having
affordable.
gone up, they're building a lot of apartments to have housing for people, but even the apartments are quite expensive.
Yep.
If you want a nice apartment, you're spending 2,000, 2,500, and then we have the lack of people listing, right? So if we're going away from new construction, you have homeowners that might want to sell the big 4 bedroom, 2.5 bath family home because the kids are gone. Well, when they see that how much they have to pay for a little ranch,
They stay put.
they're staying. Now we have people that bought a home 5 or 6 years ago that might now upgrade or change, but they have an interest rate of 2.5%, and they are not interested in trading into a
Mhm.
7. So again, lack of supply, more people sitting in their homes. It used to be people would move every 5 years, 15 to 20. The only people moving right now are people that have to move. Either you're leaving for a new job or health or marriage or illness. That's the only inventory we see coming up.
So you probably already answered this one, Sylvia, but what do you see? And we won't hold you to this, but what do you see as the outlook for the future of the housing market, either here in Rochester or in general?
Well, in general, I know that in other parts of the country, there is already a slowdown. There is
Okay.
already more listing inventory and prices slowing, and homes maybe staying on the market, 30 days rather than 3 days. And like I said, now we're watching, right? Because if you say 3 to 4 offers, that only leaves 2 or 3
Right.
buyers that are still
Right.
looking for a home. But I'm still not seeing, if anything, maybe another year and then maybe a flattening out.
Right.
We don't think this was a bubble because it was driven by demand. But logic would also say, I mean, the average home in Rochester, I think, used to be 130,000. Now it's 250. Right? We are
Yep.
getting to a price point where a lot of the younger people can't afford to buy anymore.
Right.
So when you have fewer people who can afford it, demand goes down, and we're going to find a balance. So I
Awesome.
think, like everything else, there will probably be a balancing coming. The question is when.
Sure. So what advice would you give someone who is looking to try to buy their first home within the next 1 to 5 years?
Well, for that, I would say sooner is probably better than later because,
Mhm.
again, we're seeing, especially affordable homes are going to continue. You have a gigantic, I'm told the millennial generation is even larger than the boomers were. And
Hmm.
all of those people, the largest group of people that are forming households are people between the age of 28 and 35. And there's more of those in America right now than there ever have been.
Hmm.
So you have a lot of people that are looking to buy a
Yep.
home, to build a household, to get married or whatnot. So I don't see that affordable home. And again, you can't make any more, right? Because you can build a new home for 800,000. That's far from first-time home buyers. So I would say sooner, so that you maybe get in before the height of the market.
And then what advice might you give someone who's currently living in the Rochester area, but maybe looking to size down or maybe move elsewhere or try the snowbird thing within the next 1 to 5 years?
Well, the way that I've always looked at residential real estate and what I tell people, and I did just this week, that it is your lifestyle more than anything else that
Mhm.
should influence them. I've had people that jumped in the market 3 years ago because they felt like, I'm going to sell now because we're never going to see these prices again. And guess what? They would have gotten more now. But when you're ready, when the
Right.
time is ready, then you don't try and calculate. I mean, stock market, sure, you buy and
Mhm.
sell whatever is the best time. Your home, you do that when you feel that you're ready. And very often I meet with people and help talk it through. And but it's like, if you're in that lucky position that you have choices, explore
Right.
your choices. Do what works best.
Amen. Well, thank you. Any meat that I left off, left on there on the bone that you can think of?
You were very thorough. I mean, we talked about the market. I think one of the things that you had mentioned to me before in one of the conversations we had is that because affordability is getting so difficult, we are seeing a lot of parents or even grandparents that are chipping in financially to
Mhm.
help the youngsters buy homes, whether it's with their down payment or whether it's even holding the mortgage for the young ones, as an
Hmm.
investment. So I know for sure there are some of my young first-time homebuyers that would have not been able to buy a home if it wasn't for the financial help, because it takes a while to save up money for a down payment, and when the prices go up you can't save fast enough, right?
So for the higher net worth, maybe potentially even the parents holding the paper, so to speak.
we've seen people holding the paper, and if you hold the paper at 7 or 8%, that's a very
Sure.
secure
Yeah.
investment. Or sometimes we see people just saying, "Hey, we'll give a nice gift so that they have the down payment."
Right.
So that's yeah, we have seen a lot more of that.
That's useful. And again, I guess I'm curious now if the baby boomers, the older boomers, if they really will want to, and I think you hit the nail on the head, it's about lifestyle. If they really do want to live in these developments that they're building, we're talking just sometimes 600 or 800 foot, condominiums or apartments. I mean, there's nothing to say that they want to live there. So that's, I don't know. It's just creating more of a funnel, in my
It
opinion.
varies. I mean, I'm a boomer, we have choices.
Right.
I've had people sell everything and take an RV for you. I've had people live on their
Yep.
boat. I've had people, having two places. I've
Hmm.
had people come back, so
Yeah.
it's nice. It's wonderful if you can really explore, that. And one thing that we see a lot of is that people want things walkable. So we see a lot of
Yeah.
demand for the
Yep.
villages, or even in the city, right, where people can walk to restaurants and things like that, or be near nature. So yeah, it's
Hmm.
it's. I find most boomers are probably also in better health than maybe in past years
Yeah.
because people are still very fit. And if you're very fit, why would you go sit in a little ranch, right?
It helps to age in place to be able to.
And
Yeah.
we have too much stuff to move in a
Right.
little
That's
ranch.
true. No, this is good. Yeah. I wonder. So you mentioned 50% increase in 5 years. Do you think the cost of building a new home has also gone up that amount? I wonder.
I don't have the statistics. That seems
Probably about
probably,
right. Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I got to say that we have even Rochester used to be, if anything above a half a million, we would say the air gets pretty thin. You have $1 million properties that sell over asking price. It's just
Right.
you know a piece of cake. But you also have to remember with building, you're looking at Court, you're looking at Brighton, you're looking at Pittsford.
Landlocked.
People
Yeah.
don't want to build and drive 30 minutes out to Victor. Some
Right.
do.
Right.
But when you build new, you're going to be farther away.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that is sort of stopping.
Yeah.
And the new construction that goes up in the villages is also quite expensive. There's a few units in Fairport that are attracting, the luxury buyer on the
Sure.
canal condominiums, and
The
it's
walkability. Yeah.
500,000 plus. And they sell just like that.
For how much?
500,000 to a million.
And these are like just small
The
condominiums.
new build, yeah, 1,600 square feet, but
Yeah.
very luxurious and right on the canal in Fairport. Those are sort of the newest ones. I think they started up about 5 or 6 years. And when they first started, it was 300,000. And we looked and we're like, well, they all sold.
Yeah.
They all
Wow.
sold.
Well, like you said, the baby boomers, they have the resources and they have the optionality and the choice. So,
Yep. And they want what they want.
yep. So,
And when you work your entire life for something,
yeah.
right?
No, amen. No. Well, thank you. This has been tremendously helpful. I really appreciate the
I
time.
hope so. Yeah, very nice spending time with you. And
Yeah,
anytime if any more questions come
I
up
will.
and what comes through.
I appreciate it.
Take care.
Thanks, Sylvia.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.